Now this game is legendary. Super Smash Bros. Started off in the N64 era, made it into the esports, and is played by casual players as well as die-hard competitive ones. The fanbase for this game is huge, and it's one of the best series of games Nintendo has ever made. But how did this all start? Well, Super Smash Bros. Was very different at the beginning of its development. It changed a lot. The development started for the Super Nintendo and was meant to use the Super FX chip to display the 3D graphics. In those days, 3D graphics were revolutionary and would totally fit into Nintendo's way of being innovative and unique about their games. Back then, the game was only programmed by Sakurai, Iwata, and a sound engineer whose name is unknown. Sakurai was responsible for the character and level design, while Iwata took over the programming. Looking at how the Super FX chip was able to process graphics compared to the graphics chip in the N64, it is easy to assume that in the very early prototypes of Dragon King the fighting game, which was the original name of Super Smash Bros., they did not use a knockback system at all. It is very likely that the game was originally meant to use a health system just like every other fighting game back in the day. But it also had something new: platforms to jump on. Since arcade fighting games back then mostly consisted of a basic platform the fighters would stand on.
However, the game was later pushed onto the N64 to use the analog stick of the console, and the main focus of the game was pushed to be the ultimate multiplayer experience for the N64. This automatically means 4 players have to be able to play the game at the same time. But how would a system using a health bar handle 4 players at once? While there are definitely games out there that tried to manage this, Sakurai and Iwata decided to go into another direction. Chances are that the knockback system was invented as 4 players would probably just clump up together in one place and not go anywhere. This would end up in a big mess without any incentive for the players to move away from another. However, adding an impact system that pushes the players away from each other would also blend well with the platforms and the 3D elements that were planned for the game. Thus, the percentage system was invented. Well, not yet. First images of the game show that this concept consisted from early N64 days on, but it doesn't show any damage meter. Later on, colored images of the game feature a percentage system, which show that Sakurai and Iwata were indeed thinking of getting away from the health system. Now the game was playable with prototype characters and prototype stages. However, it lacked depth. And so they wanted to include Nintendo characters. But why Nintendo? Arcade games played on arcade machines had their absolute focus on the battle itself, while fighting games for home consoles, such as Street Fighter, came with a little bit of a story for every character and tried to use their backgrounds as a reason to why they were fighting each other. Also, the variety of characters they could use would easily give them options and ideas for abilities each fighter could use. This would make the game less repetitive since all the fighters have unique attacks now, and this increases the replay value a lot. However, this is a problem. As someone who might not be able to get the background behind the characters, or who is simply not willing to understand who these unknown characters are, couldn't see a motive to why they're fighting or even understand who these characters are. Nintendo characters, however, are well known already. No one needs an explanation to who they are or why they're fighting. So they pitched the idea to Nintendo and got rejected. This happened because Nintendo was scared at thinking about what it would look like if Nintendo characters were brutally fighting each other. This was the birth of a Super Smash Bros. Dojo, where Sakurai and Iwata explained the concept piece by piece to Nintendo to show that the concept is more fun and innovative than brutal.
Now that they finally had the acceptance of Nintendo to use their characters for their game, it was time to think about abilities, items, characters, depth, and they went all out. At first. The original game was not only meant to feature the characters it uses as of now, but was also meant to include a final smash for every character. However, it got scrapped somewhere during development, as they realized that they wouldn't make it. The space of the cartridge just wasn't enough. The only leftover of this is Ness shouting, which is left on the cartridge, which turned out to be his final smash in Super Smash Bros. Brawl. And the added break the target and board the platform minigames were probably a good combination of how to hook a single player onto the game for a while, plus getting a better feel for the character itself. But altogether, it is crazy how far the game and the concept have come. From a handcrafted 3-man project to one of the most popular esports fighting games there is. And as time goes by, it will only become bigger, and it's already huge. But for now, we will just have to wait for Super Smash Bros. Switch. Also, happy Nintendo Switch launch, everyone! Thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed. If you want to watch more, click the annotations on the screen right now, and you can always subscribe. I heard that there are some good benefits.